Welcome back to the Nasty Work Podcast. I'm Nia Senior. My amazing co-host, as always, Coach Slaw. Y'all, this is season 2. We have officially made it. So that means if it's season 2, that the WNBA season is what? Over, and that
Period.
college is about to start. And so I don't know how you feel about it, Coach Slaw. How was the WNBA season for you? Honestly, I feel like it was a great season, all bullshit aside, in terms of hoops and what was actually going on the court. I thoroughly enjoyed some of the basketball. This final series is probably entering my top 5, one of my favorites. It was very enjoyable to watch, very exciting. Every game was a must see.
Absolutely. I liked the season a lot. It was super competitive. We had some emotional roller coaster more than usual on social media. Some of that stuff got real out of hand real fast. But overall, I enjoyed the attention the league was getting. I enjoyed Caitlin Clark coming in and giving the league a taste of her style of play, the long 3 ball, the go-ahead pass. That was all fun and fine and dandy. I like that everybody who was claimed to be a super team really got tested. Every team showed up pretty much every night, except the Atlanta Dream. The Atlanta Dream was so funny to me. Tina Charles showed up every night, but the Atlanta Dream showed up sometimes. It was strange.
Okay.
And the Washington Mystics, but they had a lot of injuries. But every team I felt like in that 12 will never experience this again.
No.
Right? Like if this was a cap on the era of 12 teams, I'm
Yep.
really satisfied about where things are. Congratulations to the New York Liberty. I have to say when I'm wrong. And I had the Lynx picked, if you go back a couple episodes ago,
Yes.
to win the finals. I had the Liberty picked, and the Liberty's been the best team all season. I just felt like I can't, in good conscience, root for the New York Liberty in the WNBA finals, knowing that I'm an Aces fan.
That's
And
a
I
fair.
also felt like, and she finally proved me wrong on this, Breanna Stewart was not a closer. In the fourth quarter, over and over again, when the opportunity arose, she wasn't closing games and she wasn't hitting free throws.
Choke.
There's a lot of debate about whether or not those free throws she shot in game 5 were justified.
Let's be clear. She made the second set. The first set,
The first set, she definitely, I was saying, choke her again. Boom.
she bricked them hoes.
Brick. Heard every part of the rim. I've been calling her choker. This is well documented in our group chat for weeks. So when she finally had the opportunity given to her on a silver platter by the referees to shoot that second pair, she hit them. What can I say? You hit them finally. Good. I'm glad for your mental health also that you got that done.
It sounds to me like you and Cheryl Reeve share the same vernacular because she was like, wow, you guys finally won a championship after 28 years. So congrats.
Sarah Reeve is a different level of petty that most of the time I don't really appreciate, honestly. I think she's a little bit pretentious. She definitely has a pedigree as a coach. I am
Right.
her, but most of the time her tone irritates me. But I think with the emotions and the rivalry that series turned into, from game 1 being in overtime to the Sabrina Ionescu game 3 buzzer beater to win the game, to all of those things, and then get to the end of game 5 and those calls were made. It was a mess. But that's not why the Lynx lost. The Lynx lost because in the third quarter they couldn't pay for a basket to go in.
All right.
It was nonstop dry spell, and it allowed the Liberty to come back. Brittany and Stewie, respect to their game and their contribution to their team overall throughout the season and in the series overall. In game 5, they did not look like they are the stars of that team.
Oh, no, absolutely not. It doesn't even seem like they were in the building. They literally could not have been. 1 for 19.
6 for 34 combined by the time the fourth quarter rolled around. Sabrina only wanted to shoot a logo 3 in that game, which was strange to me because there were other looks that were definitely working for her throughout that series that she did not have to take those types of shots. I don't know if it was nerves, illness, what have you. I did see Sabrina throwing up on the sideline. I don't know what it is, but a win's a win. And they have Nair Sabali and Jonquil Jones to thank for that.
Period.
Sabali really put up big minutes for them, came in, built for the moment, and just played really good, really tough nose, strong, fundamental basketball. Just took it to the cup, rebounded her ass off, defended her ass off, and didn't complain and didn't look for calls and didn't shy away from moments or take risky shots to try to be a hero. Just hooped.
Just played, yeah.
Just hoop. And I respect that, especially for a player who's been through as much adversity as she has since entering the league, not being able to complete the rookie season, all the injuries. Like, congratulations, Nair Sabali. You're a dog. And we always talk about two things when it comes to championship games. Stars have to rise and role players help you win.
Yep.
And that's kind of the story of the finals.
It literally is the story. For the Lynx,
The other person I need to nod to as where the fuck were you is Courtney Williams.
And I feel like another thing that we always talk about, especially when it came to New York Liberty and the Lynx, is like who has played their best basketball. And I feel like that applied to Courtney Williams. She played her best basketball in game 4. She emptied that tank to even get them to a game 5. And so by the time she got to game 5, she ain't have shit to give, honestly.
And that's when it's time for somebody else to step up. But if Nafisa Collier was getting some of the foul calls that Breanna Stewart was getting, I don't know that this game looks the same. Because Nafisa came to...
She was locked in. Nafisa has proven to me personally that she may be the second best player in the league because when it was time for the MVP race, I was like, I don't know. Asia's just such a cut above from everybody else. I couldn't really see how great Fee was hooping this year. But seeing her match up against the best team and someone who has Breanna Stewart, people always say they feel like was 1A, 1B between her and Asia. Nafisa shined from game 1 through game 5 and showed that she may be the second best player in the world, definitely in the league.
Yeah, I think that's right. Greatness is about showing up consistently and your teammates know you're her. And there's no question about that. And she did that the
whole season.
She did that in the Olympics. And defensively, I think she is the best player I've seen in a long time. Oh. She studies her opponent's tendencies down to a T. And she's always in the right position. If she fouls you, it's because she wanted to.
I saw a stat that the only game that Nafisa Collier fouled out of this year was game 5 of the finals.
Correct.
And so I don't think people understand how amazing that is. People foul out all the time, but especially when you're the best player on the team and likely guarding the other best player on the team. When you're guarding a marquee player, a lot of times that whistle can be very friendly for them. And so it looks bad on the defender. So for her to not foul out just shows how smart she is.
If you're coaching a forward in youth basketball and you want them to watch somebody who's fundamentally sound on both ends of the basketball and really smart, it is her. Asia is definitely up there, but it's like Asia is at a level of elite skill set offensively in her game. Still, I think a hair above Nafisa. If you want somebody who's always doing the fundamental thing right. I've never had a moment watching Nafisa this season where I was like, why did she do that? Why did she take that shot? Why did she make that pass? Where was she for the I never had a moment like that.
People don't give her footwork enough credit. It's elite.
It's really crazy. As one of those people who can guard, 3-4 different positions. So yeah, shout out to Nafisa. I'm sorry they didn't finish for you this year. I think the Lynx, if they want to, could be back. I think they might need to move some pieces around, but I think they could be back.
And they won't have any choice to move some pieces around. And that's kind of like the main focus of what our conversation is going to be today. The offseason.
Yup.
Before we get into that, anything else you would like to say on the finals? I want to give a shout out to Kayla McBride. I feel like
Yeah, she tried, child.
she hooped this year. She got the All-Star nod that she deserved. But in game 5, when we talk about stars rising, when Courtney Williams didn't show up, Kayla McBride, she just over kept putting the Lynx in a position to make a comeback or still be in it. And it just showed how hungry she is. Because I feel like Kayla McBride is not someone I would describe. When I think of dogs in the league, that's not a name that comes to mind. But that game to me showed me like, no, I'm a competitor. She wanted that so bad.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to just want it. It's another thing to want it and go after it. And she just did that. The FISA was clearly the best, but second to that. So
Kayla doesn't get enough credit for what she does defensively. She does not get the weak person to defend on defense. A lot of shooting guards can get away with, oh, I'm a bucket, so I don't have to do as much defensively. And she doesn't. She accepts the challenge. She uses her body and her length to guard who they need her to guard. I also want to shout out the other German who made her mark as a rookie in this league, Phoebish.
honestly, the whole year, because even her performance against the Aces in the
Phoebish is so smart. If you have to play against Phoebish as a point guard, we saw it with Chelsea Gray, we saw it with Courtney Williams in this series at times. We saw it with KP. If you have to go up against her length and speed, you're in trouble. It's a lot. Things you're used to doing, moves you're used to creating enough space with against other defenders, it doesn't work as well.
You cannot teach height.
And you can't be lazy with your passing. The deflections, I think I counted like 6 deflections she had in that game that were really good as far as, getting stops against the Lynx and making Courtney Williams frustrated. Right? Yeah. Because I'm shooting the floater I know how to make, but I'm shooting a step back I know how to make. We know Courtney Williams is the master of the mid-range, but getting sped up or thrown off your angle a little bit can make the touch on that ball not go in. So that's the last person I think I need to shout out. Phoebish. The Germans did their they did their big one in game 5.
They did. The Germans, they came to eat. But I have one foreigner to shout out, and it's the Aussie, Sandy Brondello, because I feel like people often question her coaching ability, how elite are her X's and O's, especially when it came to this series. People just have been having discourse about it. So in game 5, making that adjustment at halftime to bring in that bigger lineup that had those 5 players with Nayara on the floor all at the same time who had never played, all 5 of them on the floor at the same time, changed the game. It won them a championship. And so seeing that necessary adjustment need to be made, the length and what that would look like, and trusting her players, I feel like was major and was huge. And so she deserves a shout out for that.
Facts. And I'll add that putting that final shot in game 3 in Sabrina Ionescu's hands as opposed to Breonna Stewart's hands probably won them a championship.
Because who knows?
Because that game before
might not have been coming back to New York. But hey, that's how the cookies crumbled. Is there anything else that you need to mention or say before we close out this chapter on what was the 2024 WNBA season?
Aces and 6.
Okay. And I would just like to say A'ja Wilson is the best player in the world. Thank you. All right, so now that the WNBA season for 2024 is over, that means the Nasty Work podcast is officially in season 2. That means that we need to turn the page into what we call the off season. The off season typically consists of college women's basketball and Athletes Unlimited. This season, the amount of things that are going to transpire in this off season is actually insane. Just to give you guys a bullet pointed list to run it down, then we'll go into each topic. First off, like we said, college basketball is set to begin on November 4th. That will be the kickoff. Then we have what we would like to call the lottery pick. Every year, we figure out which teams will get what, of the top 4 picks for the WNBA draft for the following year. That is set to happen in the middle of November. Then, because the league is moving from 12 teams to 13 for the 2025 season, we will have an expansion draft on December 6th. Then, on top of that, we have a new women's basketball league, 3-on-3, by the name of Unrivaled, started by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. It will begin in January 17th down in the Yams, Miami. Athletes Unlimited is coming back, but they're moving locations this year. They will not be in Dallas. They will be in Nashville, which is very exciting because it's super close to me. So I will be definitely having sneakers on the ground for that. Then, y'all,
I gotta come to Nashville. I gotta
come to Nashville.
We gotta go to the Hard Rock. All the things.
Ugly Coyote? Yes.
I gotta get some boots.
Then we have free agency like we normally have, but it's different because of the extra team and the names in free agency this year are major marquee big players. Then, y'all, even on top of that, Asia Wilson's shoe will be dropping, as well as her whole merch line with Nike in the off season. We have 5 open head coaching positions that have to be filled between now and next season. And then last of all, like every year, is the regular draft, which likely will be a big draft just like last year because we have insane names coming out. Those are the likes of like Paige Beckers, Kiki Iriafen, and the list goes on. So, y'all, that's the bullet point list of everything we got going on in this off season. So, Coach Slob, what is the most thing that you're excited to see happen in the off season? Like, what are you looking forward to?
The University of South Carolina women's basketball going back to back.
Period.
That's all cute. You know, the pros. I gave y'all a lot of attention. But you see the shirt.
Yes. Y'all also see the shirt.
It. The only team in my entire 30 years that has ever motivated me to wear Under Armour.
They need to step up their merch department exponentially.
I'm also excited about Unrivaled, and here's why.
Same.
3-on-3 basketball is, in my opinion, one of the best ways you can get better at your craft. You can't hide. Basketball is one of those sports where if I name any NBA team or WNBA team right now, Nia, you could probably pick out 2 people in their starting 5, right?
Yes.
And maybe the third, depending on how big the team's market is.
Okay.
Maybe the whole starting 5 is if it's your favorite team. In 3-on-3, there is no, I'm 1A, you're 1B, and then these 2 rebound and defend, and then the third person, he shoots when we want him to. It's, you got your man?
Right.
We probably can't switch this. You better get over the screen.
Facts.
Red, red, red the whole time. It makes you a better player on both sides of the ball because in a game of 5, you may not be put in a whole lot of situations depending on how much you play.
Exactly.
I have to switch on this. And so you have to adjust and win by any means necessary. The other thing is you can't rest. You need a different level of conditioning to be in a 3-on-3 game. You can't take plays off or your person's at this level with these competitors, if you take a play off, your person's probably going to score. I'm excited because it puts players that are role players in their professional teams in a different light to showcase the skill set they have in ISO situations that we wouldn't necessarily get all the time. And if you follow some of the players that play overseas and they are now the number 1 go-to on offense when that's not usually their role in the W, or even in Athletes Unlimited sometimes because Athletes Unlimited is just kind of chaos to me still.
Yes, very much so.
It's giving just above open run in the level of seriousness, not in the level of skill or play that the players have, but just like there's some level of like, we're here for this, but we're also here to kiki a bit. And I appreciate that. Like they deserve to do what the fuck they want to do, right? Who knew something could be fun? Wow. I'm excited for that because if you watch players like Dana Evans, when she goes overseas, She's cooking. She's got like 22 points, 5
Yeah.
rebounds, and it's like, damn, she don't be doing that over here. This is a different game and a different role. If you follow Courtney Williams last year, I think she was league MVP.
Yep.
Overseas. This will be fun to see what matchups we get, who's on each other's team, and why. It'll just mix things up in a way I think is refreshing and gives us motivation as women's basketball fans to see something completely different and to grow a portion of the game that's also in the Olympics, right? 3-on-3 is an Olympic sport, so it gives players more of an option to showcase their skill on a platform that could maybe make them an Olympian. Who knows? Like, I think it was a smart choice. Overhead is lower, so players get more money out of their investment, and that's always important. So I think this player run league like is really unique, really fun already just by thinking about what we could see. If you could see Arike and Jewel Lloyd and Neka Gumake on the same team,
that's super exciting.
That's crazy, right? Like, so I'm excited for it.
The other piece of Unrivaled is that the normal league games are 3-on-3, like Coach Slaw just explained, but there is a tournament that is 1v1. I'm really excited about seeing that because, just like you said, seeing all these crazy matchups with, top W players that don't play together, seeing them play with each other is cool, but also the ability to have a 1-versus-1. Some of the best players in the world, I feel like that's going to eat.
Who's not scared? That's what I want to know. Who's scared and who's not scared? Because if everybody's just going to do a little step back 3 the whole time, I'm not here for it. Try to take it to the cup and risk getting your shot blocked.
Exactly.
I want to see some real hoop, and we're going to see who grew up on the playground and who didn't.
Let's get into it. I'm really excited to see Unrivaled, something new. I think the thing I am most excited about for the off season, my Gamecocks going back to back for sure. That's for the top of my list. I feel like free agency is going to be a clusterfuck this year. And a lot of times we don't see that much trading or movement. This year we did see a little bit for the 2024 season. I was like a couple of days of excitement being tapped in, but because of the expansion draft, some of the top names in free agency, like Kelsey Plum, Natasha Howard, who else? AT, Dewana Bonner, all these, major like franchise players. I feel like we could see a lot of movement, and the league that we had in 2024 is not going to be the league that we have in 2025. So just seeing what the GMs cook up, I feel like it's really going to be really exciting and something to like watch. And I like it because it's like sporadic. It's like, we just got a burst of news, and it keeps women's basketball fresh on a lot of people's minds. For us, women's basketball is year round. We're tapped in with college, we're tapped in with all the other leagues, and like we're super fans. We love it. There's no off season for us, but in terms of people who only watch the professional or only watch college, having so many new fans, these spurts of announcements or things that are going to change the league, keep it fresh on people's minds. So I'm really excited for that this off season. So, that's all the things that are going on this off season. We're going to keep you guys updated as we know more news, as stuff goes on, and just kiki about it. But we have to get into college basketball. There's already been some exhibition games going on. So if you have a team or you don't have a team, look in to see what the girlies are giving. With the season kicking off, I have to let you guys know we will have sneakers on the ground in Las Vegas for South Carolina's kickoff. My mom and I will be going to the game. Super excited to see them play Michigan. So, Coach Slaw, college basketball, we know you are a South Carolina Gamecocks fan. So am I. But what other teams are you excited to see?
Another team I'm excited about is Texas.
Okay. Now tell the people why you're excited about Texas.
I feel like last year they scratched the surface. I feel like this year they've had some experience in the tournament, going deep in the tournament. They've got a clear leader. The energy they bring on the defensive end, to me, is unmatched. It's not like other teams in college basketball don't play defense, but they don't care if they've been making shots or not. They still show up. And that's going to win you more games than people expect. respect.
The interesting thing, if you guys don't know, Texas who was a part of the Big 12, is now a part of the SEC, and so their matchups when it comes time for conference play are gonna look a little bit different. So, what do you think about Texas moving to the SEC? Do you think they're gonna mesh well, fit in, and be able to thrive, or do you think it's gonna be a hard adjustment coming from the Big 12?
I think it's a better fit for them in the style of play.
Personally.
I think Madison Booker is gonna love it. She likes the competition. She likes the physicality. She doesn't shy away from it. They were the bully, in my opinion, in their previous conference.
Facts.
So now it's like bullies on bullies. In my opinion, has gotten a little bit like last year, still had a lot of that tough energy. LSU brought that energy. South Carolina brought that energy. But there's also a bit of a mix now. I mean,
yeah,
Kentucky is basically Virginia Tech.
Again, yeah.
Right? So that's not the same flavor of physicality. You know, like there's a good mix. And I think those matchups are going to be harder, especially when you have somebody playing forward with Texas. I think that's just the direction basketball has been going the last decade.
For sure.
The best teams have the best forward that can handle the ball and pass the ball like a point guard. And she's only a sophomore.
She has so much time to grow. And
so I think there's going to be some pretty shocking matchups with Texas that they're going to pull out. And they're number 4 right now in the AP, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody were to upset South Carolina. I think it might be them.
Especially because Madison Booker had an excellent year as a freshman last year. Part of it is, due to her skill set, but it was because Texas part way of the year, was out there point guard Rory Harmon. Mm-hmm. And so now having them both back, it's gonna be nasty. So I am excited to see what Texas is gonna do and what Madison Booker's sophomore season looks like. But you mentioned a team that I'm really excited about, LSU. Angel Reese was their star player, and so she has moved on to the pros and is no longer with them. We saw Flau'jae Johnson, especially toward the latter half of the season and in the tournament, like really come into her own in her sophomore season. And so I'm really excited to see what she does now the team is hers. And so also what pieces that they brought in and how everything meshes with them as a team. I'm just excited to see what they do and what becomes their identity now that Flau'jae is at the head of LSU. Any other teams that you want to shout out or like that you are just like, okay, I'm really excited to see first week what they're looking like?
I mean, first week of college basketball is hard for me because they be playing games in
apple pie
from less competitive conferences. Not that those hoopers aren't hoopers. It's just the talent bank is different. The size advantage is really a major piece. Like in the athleticism is a major piece there. I'm also excited to see North Carolina State. I think they're another one of those teams. They had that breakthrough in the tournament, but now they're more mature. And Tsai's a dog.
Talk about it.
I haven't been that excited about a player, like seeing a player that competitive, but still not as polished as they could be, right? Like still has potential for growth. It's already elite, but still has potential. Like I think we like seeing players like Rakia Jackson. We knew she was a pro, right?
Yes, already.
Tsai has every single year matured, and that's why I say college women's basketball is the real women's basketball to me, because you actually see the development in both on the court skill set wise and how they play the game and think the game, but also maturity. Like every single year she comes back better. She comes back in better shape, which is crazy work to me. That she's an athletic beast. Like she can sprint her ass off. She's long, she's lanky, she uses her size well. We always talk about the players who have a strong, like, offensive bag. Everybody likes all this shifty shit people do and all that stuff. She can do that, but she can just get the step and make the right amount of dribbles and get to the fucking cup. I appreciate that because that's a lost art, in my opinion.
You say it all the time. You see all that dribbling.
Shifty, like everybody want to, step back three. She's like, no, I know how to get to my spots efficiently, right? And with her being confident in her bag, North Carolina State can upset some people for sure.
I think the tournament made me an Isaiah James fan.
Mm-hmm.
She's really, really dope. I'm a fan of her game. I think that her and Tsai Rivers are a great pair. And I just hope that they have a good big. I think that will be the determining factor for how well NC State does. Their guard play is quite elite with those two alone. So, yeah.
Oh, and shout out Zoe Brooks.
Duh, the little freshman phenom, she did her shit last year.
Nah, not a little freshman, a big one.
Big
I don't
freshman.
think people realize how smart of a player Zoe Brooks is. Coach, give her more minutes. I know she probably already earned them, but give her more minutes. I know she was trying to figure things out defensively. That's what all freshmen have to do. But offensively, patience, pace, knowing what pass to make, what read to make, she already has that. To have a freshman in the game that you're not worried about what decisions they're going to make is rare. And I was like, oh shit, she can hoop. She sees the court.
Yes.
Some people have to learn that in college. They know how to use their talent in high school, but they don't see the court necessarily. And she's one of those players that definitely sees the court. I'm excited for her to come back and have a breakthrough year. She's a hooper. Like what Becky Hammond was saying about Kate Martin. She understands angles. She understands this. She understands that.
Yeah.
I see that in Zoe Brooks for sure.
Okay, I'll take. Yes, so NC State. I think another team I'm really excited to see is Duke, who is their head coach, who got an upset in the tournament last year. And I think having Reagan come back, I'm just really excited to see that team have more time, especially under. I think she is a great basketball mind. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what they give.
Yeah, I think Clara Lawson is my favorite coach in basketball right now. She knows what it takes to be excellent.
Facts.
And she won't, like, based off of what I've seen on social media and media and stuff like that, she doesn't lie or embellish.
Okay.
Right? Like, she's very realistic. She's very strategic. But she also doesn't do this thing that I see some coaches do where you can tell who they believe in and who they don't on their roster.
Favoritism.
Not even just favoritism, but I've seen you execute this because we practiced it. I think you should be the one to execute it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you're not as talented as this next person. Like, wherever you're at, cool. We're going to work with that. What you can do as you're in your role at a high level. The team she had last year was not supposed to do what they did. And now she's got some of the best recruits.
Okay, talk about
available coming in. It's going to be different. Once they start clicking, I mean, she's got a freshman that can dunk.
Wake it up.
Once it starts clicking and they're firing on all cylinders, they could break some hearts too. The ACC is going to be interesting.
Very.
It's going to be interesting.
And so that takes me to my next question. Which conference do we think is going to be the best conference this year? I feel like last year it was the Pac-12. They had team after team that just was. No, you don't agree? You don't feel like the Pac-12 was one of the toughest, if not the best?
How many Pac-12 teams made it to the Final Four then?
Okay.
Heard you. I know I'm biased, but go ahead and finish your point.
Which conference is going to be the best or the toughest conference this year? I knew you were going to say it.
Just think about it a little bit. This is based on what we know already. Right, I'm not even thinking about the new people they've added, just what we know already.
Carolina.
LSU, Flagey, Anissa, South Carolina, the whole team. Kentucky is Virginia Tech. Texas is Texas. Florida has been shaky, but they added some pieces too.
I agree. I personally think that the SEC is going to be a gauntlet, but I don't advocate for the devil, but for argument's sake, I will say that I feel like the Big Ten could be a crazy conference because of the moves they made. They now have UCLA in their conference. They
That's
now
right.
have Southern Cal in their conference. They still have Ohio State in their conference. These are some pretty big teams. So I think that for argument's sake, the Big Ten could be up there. And isn't Maryland in the Big Ten too?
What are we gonna do about Maryland? I forgot Maryland was in the Big Ten.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, it could just for argument's sake, that just so we're not so biased as SEC lovers. So
I'm biased.
you don't care that you're biased?
I don't care that I'm biased. People are listening to us for our point of view.
This is true.
I think
it just means more. SEC, period.
The ACC though, Miami looks pretty good too.
Okay. Miami, but they have no studs. They said they don't have studs on their roster,
right? So
no.
I mean,
hang it up, flat screen.
That might be to your advantage. It might be a distraction. Stud don't have no stud to guard. That's crazy. But here's my thing about ACC. I feel like there's been some teams in the ACC for a while that probably should have been not in the ACC, and like Georgia Tech and
please be gone.
Wake Forest. So that's 3 wins. If you're a top team in the ACC, that's 3 wins right there.
Okay.
You can't really take a night off in conference play in the SEC.
Listening, Arkansas.
You better not.
Clemson.
You better not. I'm trying to tell you, if you fuck around, you will find out. That's how it goes. Maybe Mizzou.
Exactly. That's what I'm like. It's a few.
But that's still 1. It's not 3.
Arkansas. That's 2.
It's still not 3.
But 2 is close. But hey.
And Oklahoma's in the SEC.
I didn't know that.
Stop playing with me. That's why they getting their ass whooped in football.
Disgusting. Our next thing that we must discuss when it comes to college basketball is strength of schedule. If you guys are not familiar, there is a non-conference part of the season, which coaches and other coaches meet up and they schedule games. It's exactly in the name, non-conference. You can play teams that are not in your conference. And then you have conference play, which is the latter half of the season before the tournament. Non-conference is supposed to prepare you for conference play and the tournament. It's in your best interest to schedule, at least a few teams that are competitive in your non-conference schedule. But we see year after year, teams make the mistake of putting Apple Pie Beta and American Baptist College on their schedules for the non-conference to either put them in a good standing in the rankings, to what some coaches like to say, build chemistry, give them time to gel, whatever their excuses are. And oftentimes I feel like it doesn't work. I feel like having a strong schedule is the best option. You're battle tested at that point, and when it's time to go to conference, you're ready. Coach Slaw, I want you to talk more about what it means to build a non-conference schedule, the importance of scheduling, and then we can talk about who we feel like has a decent, strong schedule and who maybe missed the mark.
Here's where I think we're kind of at in the age of the transfer portal, media clickbait, and injury bugs and stuff like that. Y'all can criticize people for not having a strong conference schedule at the beginning of their season, right? If I have like a point of view, I think is a little different on this.
Okay.
If motherfuckers is scared and they don't want to play you, what are you supposed to do?
This is also an issue, especially with our South Carolina game. It's your best hope that people don't want to be pussy. And that's why we're having this conversation, urging people, putting it out to the universe that you should want a strong non-conference schedule so that this doesn't become an issue.
Here's the other thing about being the number 1, number 2, number 3 team in the AP poll or what have you. Every single team that plays you the whole season is showing up with their best work.
Hello.
Their goal is to beat you. Like, they don't show up just for a game. If you're the dog on your team and you play for Tennessee, You circled the date for South Carolina. You circled the date for LSU. You want that. Your coach is gassing y'all a different level that week. I hear people when they say, "Oh, these weak, Holy Cross and all this stuff." I hear y'all, but people have to understand, especially nowadays, basketball is not just about building a tough schedule. It's also a business.
This is true.
Those schools make a lot of money by 45 on a Tuesday night, right?
Yeah.
That's how it goes. LSU, South Carolina, UConn, they're going to make their money regardless. They got to pay the bills.
Exactly.
The average budget for a women's college basketball team is $5 to $6 million nowadays. And they're not, even with the popularity in the last few years, they're not going to profit in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And that's the top schools in the top Power 5 conferences, right? So you got to make that money. I hear y'all on strength of schedule, but like I don't ever hear about strength of schedule when we talk about UConn being in the Big East. I never hear that.
Wake it up.
Who do they play in their conference that they have to worry about for real, for real?
Maybe Marquette, maybe Seton Hall.
Maybe. If it's a great recruiting year. I don't hear that. Everybody else is, oh, why'd you schedule this? It's just chatter. Let people get their legs up under them in the first couple of games and figure out how to execute in a game environment. That's why those coaches also is like, what do they learn from playing somebody and beating them by 50? They're just trying to practice their sets, see what kind of rotations they can get out of people, see who they can trust, like see who gets the jitters, get the rust off, see how deep they could maybe be. You learn something from those games. You do. Now, if you haven't throughout the season picked ranked teams from outside of your conference to play at some point middle of the season to be battle tested, I do think that's a problem.
I personally hear your sentiments, and I definitely agree. When you're a top team, you're going to be battle tested regardless. But some of these other middle of the road teams need to have a stronger schedule if they think they're going to make a championship run.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to taste the bitterness of defeat. You got to figure out just how good you have to be, how on your P's and Q's you have to be. When Steph Curry was at Davidson, it's a mid-major, not
a big school.
His coach intentionally put Power 5 conference teams in the beginning of their schedule the year they made their March Madness run. They played some of the best basketball they could in that first month. And they got whooped a couple of times, but it reminded them what they had as a team working for them, veterans who were juniors and seniors working around Steph. They figured out their offense. They figured out that they cannot turn the ball over just because the team is more athletic. They cannot get out rebounded just because a team is bigger. They have to be crisper with their execution because a team might be faster than them in some regard. And whoever that star scorer is on that other team, you're not always going to be able to stop them, but you can slow them down a little bit and give them their second or third option instead of their first. They had to figure those things out. And that helped them by the time they got to the tournament.
And I think people say it all the time. You quickly forget wins, but you always remember a loss.
Always.
Like, how could you forget it? It's going to be on that membrane.
Sometimes, if you're like me, you forget that because you knew what it was. But if you have that type of team, like a Davidson type team, and what was that? Yeah, like you're like, shit, like we almost beat Michigan.
Almost had them.
How good are we? And that's a dangerous drug.
Yes.
To be hooked on. Like, damn, how good are we? And if you're a top dog and your team doesn't think they have to show up every single night,
you almost get beat. Yeah.
That's a good wake-up call. It's like, we don't want ugly wins around here.
Almost is worse than what actually happens.
Like, that's the Las Vegas Aces about almost. This year they had a lot of almost going on. A lot of not to lose going on.
You could ask
and they lost some of those games.
You could ask New York Liberty about it because that's why they have the season that they had this year and can call themselves WNBA champions because it was an almost in 2023.
Do you think somebody made their schedule cushy?
The only schedule that I really saw that I was like, now, baby, what the hell is this? LSU, they're on their bullshit every year. But it was Southern Cal. I was like, okay, they're playing a lot of little teams. Now, mind you, I think that part of it is because they're in a new conference. And so they're all the way in California. In conference play, they're going to be flying to the East Coast every freaking week. So I understand wanting to play as many local teams as possible to have to, one, lower your cost in terms of chartering all that shit. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, this is a top 2, top 3 team. You have potentially one of the best player college basketball on your team. So it's like, why are we not playing so many strong teams? Especially because of how they scheduled last year and literally got that first win coming out beating Ohio State. Like, that's what put them on the radar for everyone. I was hoping for a little bit.
I think the difference between this year and last year is they have a lot of younger, fresh blood, right? And that'll give them some time to adjust to the speed of the college game. Last year, they had super seniors. So there weren't going to be as many teachable moments. SC, your point about the traveling, that's going to be a huge difference this year.
And then we'll have some big matchups. Like I know they're going to play Notre Dame in November, that week, that Thanksgiving time. There's a few games. I was hoping for a little bit more. But overall, I mean, I feel like the schedules are what the schedules are every year, and you're just going to have to see how it shakes out. Well, I'm super excited for this season of college basketball. Super excited for this offseason of the WNBA. Keep you abreast on everything, as we always do. Just stay tapped into everything. But before we get out of here, we have been giving flowers out every week. So, Coach Slaw, is there anybody in the women's basketball universe, whether that's media, a player, a coach, a trainer, a mascot, whoever, that you want to give flowers to?
I want to give my flowers to Angel Reese.
Okay.
Because Unbothered that really should be the name of your podcast, not Unapologetic.
Okay.
I love everything Angel Reese is doing about making sure she is in your face, in your ad algorithm, just being everywhere. Her goal is not to be just the best basketball player she can be, but to be an icon.
Come on, icon.
Mogul.
Literally everywhere. Victoria's Secret Fashion Week. She has a new deal with Cash App, and she has this elusive box, and she's sitting courtside at the finals, and just everywhere.
At every NFL game she can make it to on a Sunday. Like, that is admirable to me, to be somebody that young and so clear and set on what their power is and what they want to use their platform to get. Just go and get it. The choices she makes are incredibly intentional and brilliant. She doesn't just choose to make a basketball shoe. She chooses to make a lifestyle athleisure wear with Reebok.
Talk about it.
Right. She doesn't just choose to be a player and a podcaster and this and the third. Like, she chooses to be a investor and minority owner in the Washington Spirit. She doesn't choose to just do a commercial for Cash App. She chooses to creative direct her own fintech product. She's trying to break through ceilings we haven't seen other people do before in the women's sport with this much intention this early on in their career.
Okay, period.
A lot of people transition into their business mode after they retire from playing and make some great deals with Nike.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. Start their own franchises or businesses. Iconic. She doesn't want to just be a businesswoman. She wants to be the face, like LeBron has been for the men's game.
I think people don't give enough credit to who her mentor is in Uncle Shaq.
Mhm.
Not only was he a great basketball player, but think about Shaq, his longevity in terms of icon status. He is in commercials today and hasn't touched the basketball in 50, 11 years. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think that has a great influence over Angel and someone that's in her ear and helping her to make sure that she becomes an icon and not just a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and to her credit, she's doing it in the era where everybody on social media has something to say. Rent's 8K. How are you paying for that? I don't know. How do you pay rent? Pay your rent.
Exactly.
I got a job and another job and a side hustle and another side hustle and a brand and a business and investments.
Yeah.
Like things you couldn't imagine. The audacity of people. Oh, what? She got to focus on ball. Why is she on a podcast? She got to focus on ball. Why is she in these commercials?
She doesn't have to be one.
Tell me what else you can't do that she can do. It's always something, right?
Mm.
That everyone wants to say what she can't do well enough in basketball. So why is she doing this?
Exactly.
Right? She out rebounded everybody today, but most of her rebounds were off her own rebounds from trying to make putbacks. And
Mm.
what else did she do that you didn't do today? She got a workout in this morning, probably with basketball. She met with investors for her businesses. She had calls with the DC Spirit, calls with Cash App, calls with Reebok, calls with Mio. What else did she do today that you can't do? And you're
And had
sitting
to
there hating.
make content and drop a TikTok. You know what I mean?
Like, what does she have to do? Keep making people mad, Angel Reese. Keep a
Yeah.
hater on you.
That was a beautiful bouquet of flowers, Coach Law. Mine's not going to be as extensive as that. I was giving a small dozen from Publix to the owner of the New York Liberty. If you guys don't know, her name is Clara. She spoke right after the end of Game 5, winning their championship. The reason I'm giving her flowers is because she really showed that if you invest in something or you have a vision of what something can be and you just stay consistent and invest in that vision, it can come to fruition. She took New York Liberty, who literally 3 years ago was playing in the freaking auditorium, an auditorium like where you see a play, and moved them to Barclays, and now can say that they're WNBA champions. No matter what happened on the court, has built an incredible following, fan base, and just put the right people in the right places. I really want to give her flowers for having that vision, investing in that vision, and seeing it through. So.
Oh, I love that. And I also want to say, take note, Chicago Sky leaned into their marketing style being very coded as African American.
Black. Gag it. All right. Well,
Ellie, shout out
Ellie,
to her.
y'all know I love me some big Ellie. And her puffer coat was fire. Can't wait to see the parade fit.
Mayor of New York Liberty, a queer Black person.
Hello.
Just a thought.
Authenticity does sell. College basketball officially starts in 2 weeks. That means you probably don't know what you should be watching right now. So, Coach Law, let's give the people something to watch. My suggestion for something to watch until college basketball comes out is The Lincoln Lawyer season 3. I literally binged it all last night. I know it's super corny because we're lawyers, but honestly, I love The Lincoln Lawyer. It's such a well done story. It's on Netflix. I just love it. Not only because I feel like the law is the most accurate out of all the other lawyer shows, but it's just theatrical. It's good. The storylines. It touches on like so many like current things, and yeah, I just think that's a great watch, and I recommend it while you're waiting on college basketball to start.
I love that. Can I recommend 2 things?
Sure.
If you're like me and Leah and you like a lawyer show or a super fake criminal show, Presumed Innocent. I know I'm a little bit late because it came out in the summer, but Presumed Innocent on Apple TV, starring
Okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal, Peter Skarsgård. Fire.
I haven't seen that one. I'm gonna have to tap in.
Fire.
You said you have two. One more?
And then the second one is Mayor of Kingstown, Paramount Plus. It is very much criminal justice system based,
Yes.
starring Jeremy Renner, known as Arrow in the Avengers. Kingstown is based off of like 2010, 2015 Pittsburgh, one of those grinded out East Coast towns. The biggest business in Kingstown is their prison.
Oh shit.
Right? Like the guards.
Yeah.
You gotta keep bodies in them beds. It's one of those prison industrial complex type vibes. The way this show works and depicts the criminal justice system working is you got prison and prison guards keeping things running in there. You got the cops keeping things crazy in the street. You got the gangs inside and outside of the prison.
Oh.
Gang members want control of what their territory is, of what their product is, of what their employee base of gang members are. So this family, the McCluskeys, Jeremy Renner's character is Mike McCluskey. They have been kind of the town neutral power broker between the gangs, the prison guards, and the cops for decades. And what they do is they cut deals between the gang members and the prison guards and the cops of what kind of product gets in and out of the jail, who gets to make a hit on somebody for a particular case. The way they get away with it is they act as informants to the cops and the feds, and they are considered hands off by all the gangs because they're advantageous as power brokers and deal makers between all the gangs. And one of the biggest gangs is, of course, the police department in this town.
Yes.
If you need to cut a deal with the police, you need somebody that they trust, and they're the only family that they trust.
No, that's fire, because I love a good show where everything is not so black and white, especially when it's the main characters. Like, it's like, are you good? Are you bad? What you're doing, is it good? Is it bad?
These dudes aren't even rich. That's the part that kills me about it. They're not rich. They're just doing this shit.
Well, I'm going to give y'all one more, since we're talking about legal or criminal shows. Reasonable Doubt on Hulu. Woo. That was tea. It's more so drama filled than it is like legal, like
it's more messy people.
Yeah, it's like messy. Like, to me, the best like analogy to it, I feel like, is like Being Mary Jane. If you ever saw that, with a cross between like Insecure, their soundtrack is really, really good. And I found out, small tidbit, all of the episode names are named after a Jay-Z song, which I thought was kind of cool. And it's directed by none other than Scandal's own Kerry Washington. It's a very African-American show, but I highly recommend, and it's on Hulu. Well, that's just a little bit of something that we recommend to fill your time until women's basketball is back on our screens. This has been another episode of the Nasty Work Podcast. I'm Nia Senior, my amazing co-host, Coach Slaw. Comment, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok, and welcome to season 2 of Nasty Work Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Toodles.
Peace.